Hello friends, today is the last lecture of the series, one of the last lectures because the team has to give one lecture each to sum up the points that have been made in the last 1.5 years. And today's lecture is by Professor Payal Nagpal, who teaches English in Janki Devi Memorial College, Delhi University. And she is a drama expert, and today's task for her would be to just rephrase certain things, make some new points, maybe share her insights also into what has been said earlier. And there are of course always dynamic situations coming up day by day, and one has to modify according to the new requirements. In order to start the discussion, I would just first welcome you, Professor Payal Nagpal, and then I would raise this question. There is this critic that you have been quoting, and all of us have been quoting, is Raymond Williams, and he generally talks about drama in history, novel in history, literature in history. So far as his expression, drama in history is concerned, how far would you agree with him?
Thank you, Professor Prakash. I think it's important to, first of all, also look at what Raymond Williams has also done, this very wonderful book, Drama from Ibsen to Brecht. So I think there, when he looks at the whole idea in terms of what he calls the structure of feeling, I think that allows us to actually enter into the whole problematic of Raymond Williams' argument from this point of view, to understand the connection between drama and history. I think that is where Raymond Williams, particularly pictures himself, really speaking.
If history is removed from drama, would drama make sense?
I think it is true for literature in general, that it responds to the times. It has, it emerges from, it emanates from the society of which it is a part. So in a sense, it belongs to the times. And in its, I think this element of belonging, be it through a structure of feeling or be it through any other concept, but this connection, really speaking, also is a response and interaction with the times. So, I think we should also extend this further, because works are written in a particular point of time. And how do they appeal to us today? Where do we situate ourselves with respect to a particular play? What is the drama of history, that we are seeing, and what is the drama that's being played out in the current times? How do these two really relate to each other? I think that is also equally crucial in a sense. Otherwise, we would be looking at a play or a work of literature as an isolated product that has come from the period to in which it was written. So I think also a very, very valuable something that drama gives us, which probably no other text really, no other form really gives us, is the fact that each time a play is performed, it's a different play altogether. And it's not only about the performance, but it's also about the written script. We look at it, we might adapt it, we might change it so that it speaks to our times. So I think there is a richness to the genre of drama that is, because of the element of performance, I think it's very different.
Which means that as you very subtly distinguish between fiction and drama, so I would like to know from you how literature, how drama distinguishes itself in terms of history, if at all.
Well, the very fact, I mean, if we were to look at it in terms of the series and the lectures that we've been holding on this particular topic so far, I think we started, particularly in this series, we started with the discussion of modern drama. Like, what is really speaking that element of modernity when we say modern drama, and we started pretty much, I think, late 19th century. We started from the works of Ibsen, and I think we paused at about the 1950s and 60s. So if we're talking about the element of modernity, why is it that term modernity is to be located in the late 19th century. What was happening before this? What was the connection between drama and history in drama, drama in history? What was the connection there? That, a theatre movement started and flourished and spread, and it's only after, the naturalistic movement, much as it has its own problems, but it is only after that there were so many other responses, really speaking, and we had expressionism, and we had political theatre, and so on, and we have, of course, Bertolt Brecht's epic theatre. So I think it's important to interrogate, when we speak about the connection between drama and history. And we could also pretty much, one goes back to Shakespeare's plays, one looks at the history plays, and there is, I think that's a classic example, really speaking, of what can be understood, how drama responds to its times, and it responds to the historical changes that are taking place. So I think this is also what we see towards the end of the 19th century, because through the course of the 19th century, plays are being performed, but they have very little connection in that sense with the real problems, the social problems of the times.
May I request you to begin with one of your favorite dramatists that you discussed in the course of your lectures. You can start with that, and then let us share the insights later.
My favorite dramatist in that sense, of course, I've worked extensively on Jean Genet, but if I have to look at, a dramatist that really, keeping in mind what we have just discussed right now, I think that would be Bertolt Brecht. So with Brecht, I think there is a possibility. The reason, I value Brecht so much is that there is a possibility of using not only his plays to adapt them to the times, but he's also given us a method, in a sense. I don't want to, reduce it to a technique, but he's given us a very rich problematic, a very rich framework from which to take on so many things. Today, whether we look at proscenium theatre or we look at theatre that's performed on the streets, I think both take on richly from the way in which theatre is envisaged by, Bertolt Brecht is a classic example of a playwright and dramatist who has been able to not just write plays and be part of their performances, but also theorize on theatre. So that, I think, is a very important takeaway when we look at Bertolt Brecht. Is very famous, A Short Organum for the Theatre, is very important, and it's written pretty much around the time when he's also completed writing his plays that he's really speaking known for, Mother Courage, The Good Woman of Szechuan, and so on.
Which means your preference is for a thinker dramatist.
Yes, I would say that yes, my preference is for a thinker dramatist. So yes, at the same time, I think in this series we discuss this entire movement, from looking at the work of Ibsen, and then Bertolt Brecht, and then of course Ionesco, Jean Anouilh, and Samuel Beckett. So I think this also provides us, with a complete movement. We are pretty much looking at about 60 to 70 years of really speaking the history of modern drama and European drama in this sense. So what is your response to a playwright like Bertolt Brecht?
Naturally, you use the word script there, that drama has a script, and Bertolt Brecht is always using drama as script, which means that it's there, it's a written statement, it's a written form of dialogues, interactions between characters, that is there, but then when he puts the actor on the stage, then he gives full liberty to the actor also to interpret the script, and therefore he has two scripts always ready with him. I've learned this from your explanations. There are two scripts. One script is there which is on the printed page, and the other script is there which is being formed on the stage itself,
yes,
through gestures, through expressions of people, and through sometimes even the responses of the audiences. Would you agree?
Yes, certainly. In fact, with the work that Bertolt Brecht has done, I think we talk about performativity today, about how, we can't look at things in terms of a linear performance. So I think we just have to head towards Brecht's work to understand what performativity really speaking means. And it's true that there is a script, there is a written script. I mean, the question is, what if an actor, for a moment forgets a dialogue or chooses to improvise, given the response of the audience? The actor chooses to delete, add. It is a different play altogether. So each performance carries with it a certain context. So that, I think, is that is something that we need to be probably more cognizant of in today's day and age.
In the drama as performance, do you think even the audience has to play a role? They are listeners, they are viewers, but they also seem to perform. What do you say?
Yes, the audience, again, if we have to answer this in terms of, what we've been discussing in this series, then we begin from with a playwright like Ibsen, where it's illusionistic theatre. So the audience is static, in that sense, and they are expected to only watch. But their role changes. Another 10, 12 years, their role changes. And be it theatre practitioners, be it theorists of drama, they're all looking towards the audience as to, how to kind of draw them within this structure of performance, in the sense that, be it Arthur's Theatre of Cruelty or any other writing that we have, they're all looking towards the audience. We may not approve, we may not, think that this is like, the correct way of probably looking at the audience. But then again, when we look at Brecht's plays end with a direct, question to the audience. For instance, the good woman of Szechuan raises this question, what is your response? And the actors are in the epilogue speaking directly to the audience and asking, what do you think about it? So this might appear to you, to be an incomplete play. So, what would be a good ending according to you? So, the playwright is already, it's not just a thinker-dramatist. The thinker-dramatist has also, in a sense, drawn the audience within this, structure of thinking, where the audience is also supposed to ask themselves, what really could be the possible ending.
So, which means that, as you very clearly indicate, it is that a sequence of events is happening on the stage with the help of the actors, and the actor is deriving help from the script. But at the same time, some kind of action is taking place in the imagination of the audience.
Yes.
And in fact, they constitute the larger part of the world in which the drama is performed. So if it comes to performance, I'm just asking your response to this. If drama is performance, then I think in the most essential sense, the audience itself is the performer. What do you say?
The drama is, performance, and but of course there is the written script, and script that also belongs to the times. So I would, I don't think one would really dilute the impact of that, because the written script also is a literary product that's emerging from its times. So that has a certain, if one may use the term, value or relevance or context of its own. And of course, from there we move to this whole idea of performance. And the audience as performer is a concept that's very, very popular today, and all sorts of experiments, I think, are happening in that context. But I think what's important is this idea of drawing the audience as a participant, as a thinker participant within the questions and the issues that are raised in the play.
You referred to Ibsen. And there are certain things that were in your mind, and you were indicating them a little subtly there. But what exactly does Ibsen do to the audience and to his own society at that time through drama?
So it's first and foremost, I think we should always ask ourselves as to when we talk about modern European drama and modern drama, we always begin with Ibsen.
Ibsen, yes.
So why do we begin with Ibsen? Is there a reason for it? And I think the reason is pretty much there, because drama before Ibsen's time and Ibsen's own writing, his own career as playwright, is a classic example of the way he shifts from the kind of plays that were written at the time to the kind of plays that probably he felt should be written. So the kind of plays that were written and plays that were performed were they had stock plots, to give that feel-good factor to the audience, where the audience would be comfortable, share a few laughs, enjoy, in a sense, the production. But these plays had very little or practically nothing to do with the lives of, the people who were watching the plays. So with, Ibsen, we have plays like A Dollhouse that, speaks to us about women in matrimony, their rights. Then we have, of course, Ghosts, that is a play that's, based, that without mentioning the word syphilis is actually looking at tradition, is looking at disease, it's looking at everything. So, and we should also look at the kind of response that, his plays received. So people were very, very critical of him, and they completely rejected, most people were absolutely appalled at the kind of plays that he had written. So this is where the element of modernity comes in. However, having covered a certain span, and today being in the 21st century, we also look back at Ibsen and we also see that one of the things that happened was that it was a very cozy, comfortable drawing room scenario. And the audience was, in a sense, the whole idea of the fourth wall, the invisible fourth wall, where the audience had to watch the play as if it were happening for real, giving them the illusion, something that Bertolt Brecht in all his writing has been very, very critical of.
So that discussion tells me that you are very fond of Ibsen also. Which are the others that you would like to project as carriers of modernity, or whatever you call it?
So I think from Ibsen, when we see this trajectory of naturalistic drama, and with Bertolt Brecht we look at drama in a totally different way, calls it epic theatre. But from there, when we move to the 1950s, we have very interesting responses to the times, and we have very interesting ways in which the playwrights choose to respond to the times. So, for instance, we have playwrights like Eugene Ionesco, we have Samuel Beckett, Jean Anouilh, and all three are, really speaking, responding to their times in a very, very different way.
Say something about them.
So, for instance, we look primarily at if we need to look at the world, it's the post-Second World War scenario. And, there people are also writers who have idealism, are also writers who are disillusioned with what has happened, and what, in a sense, the pain and, the destruction that humanity has brought on itself. So, but at the same time, it's not something very simple, it's complex, and the writers give a very sharp response to this. So, for example, Samuel Beckett makes brevity the norm. Very, very short, crisp sentences, and he's looking at the world in a way where he says that it's not making sense at all, and language can no longer communicate meaning. And but if we look at Ionesco, he uses a totally different way in which, of course, Martin Esslin has clubbed them under theatre of the absurd, and yes, all of them do make use of the absurd in a sense, but their technique is very, very different. So Ionesco, in Ionesco's case, it's not so much brevity, but absurdity. For instance, in the play Rhinoceros, is brought on stage through the whole. I mean, it's a bizarre idea. Can human beings convert into rhinoceroses? No, but there is something entirely different that the playwright is saying, and is critical of any kind of collectivism where he feels that this is tantamount to turning into an animal, a rhinoceros. But how does the play appeal to us today? I think today the play's appeal is very different from, we might be critical of certain aspects of Rhinoceros and the times in which it was written, but today the play has tremendous appeal. Again, if we head towards Jean Anouilh, I think it's done something completely different by using the idea of the classics and myths. So I think each playwright is concerned about, and it's interesting to note that the 50s is a decade that's absolutely full of people writing plays. And I think that tells us how they consider this to be a medium, a genre, that is absolutely apt to respond to the times.
You use the word disillusionment. Would you say something about it? Explain it, critique it, whatever?
So when we look at, the disillusionment is about the way in which the bombing has taken place, for instance. There's so much of destruction that the war had brought. There was this, complete economic collapse. So all these factors, lead to these writers asking a very important question. How does one make sense of humanity? How does one make sense of life? And how can is it possible to look at it in a constructive way?
Is it?
Well, that's the question that they're asking. And I think the very fact that they make that bold attempt to put it down in writing, I think that is, where I would say, yes, there is at least an attempt to make sense of it. Otherwise, it would be bizarre, and, I
they
think
would keep quiet.
They would keep quiet, and even a Waiting for Godot would probably not make sense, the way it does. And so I think this bold attempt by the writers to write about their times and to look for a genre and to look for ways in which they can put this down. So I think that is important.
And they are telling people again and again, disillusionment, 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 and that kind of a noise about disillusionment.
Yes.
That noise is significant as part of modern day existence.
Absolutely, nothing is happening.
Yes.
There is nothing to do. Nobody comes, nobody goes.
And you keep on saying this.
Yes.
And people start thinking.
So, that is where I think these playwrights have made such a valuable contribution that today we have to just head towards these plays and see how they can be adapted to any particular context. I mean, by any one in the world, really speaking. That's why these plays have the kind of relevance that they do, that we continue to read them today, and they are still performed, they're adapted, performed, or at times, just performed exactly the way they are.
Which means there are questions and there are no answers, but one knows that there are no answers, therefore one has to search for them.
One has to search for them, yes, that is absolutely true.
And the effort of searching, of course, belongs to the audience, belongs to the world.
Yes.
They have to ask questions,
yes,
and they have to find answers. And the conviction seems to be, this is my feeling, the conviction seems to be, in all these writers that you mentioned, the conviction is that answers are there. And people have to find them. Maybe they are not there in the academic world, in the cultural world, in the ideological world, but in the material world, there would be answers.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I spoke about the 50s, and I spoke about Samuel Beckett and Jean Anouilh and Eugene Ionesco, but there's also Jean Genet. And Genet is doing something entirely different. I think the combination of, and if he understands the absurd in a completely different manner is what I would say. So,
which means, friends, that the modern drama unfolded a whole span of problems that society had created and was trying to solve them. And the journey that Professor Payal Nagpal has begun with Ibsen has reached the 50s when the war would have ended, Second World War would have ended. It would have created a sense of vacuum, a sense of vacuity, a sense of emptiness, and the writers didn't know what to say, but they knew, and they also shared this knowledge with others, that something had to be said. So I think discussion should go forward from this, and that will be in the second part of the discussion. Thank you.